They say the river never forgets, and neither does a father's shame. In the village of Umuko, nestled beside the whispering Ajo River, the people often spoke in hushed tones about a girl who vanished like the morning mist, driven away by disgrace, but returned with thunder at her heels. That girl was Amarachi, 17 years old, her hair braided in Ghana weaving, with eyes that shimmered like fresh rain. Her laughter was the kind that made elders smile, and her dreams were far too big for the narrow paths of yam farming. Her father, Po Okonkwo, was a proud man, a traditionalist, feared and respected. He believed daughters were flowers, meant to bloom under strict care, never to stretch too far or too high. But Amarachi had other ideas. She often sat by the river, humming tunes no one taught her. Some said she was talking to the spirits, others whispered that the gods had marked her for something strange. Until one day, the river stopped listening. And everything changed. What follows is a tale of heartbreak, betrayal, survival, and the kind of triumph that makes even the earth gods weep. Stay with us. This isn't just a story, it's a one that never fully closed. It was the night of the New Yam Festival, the moon a pale drum in the sky, and the air buzzing with dancing feet and laughter. Amarachi wore a red blouse and a gold wrapper, her braids tied with cowries that shimmered like stars. Her cheeks were dusted with white chalk, and her beauty turned heads like wind turns leaves. That night, she met Chibondo, a 19-year-old boy with fast city talk and a slow, hypnotic smile. He had just returned from Abuja, boasting of buildings, big men, and easy money. The girls giggled, but it was Amarachi he locked eyes with. They danced, they talked, and when the drums faded, they slipped away into the sacred grove behind Oni's shrine. There, he painted dreams of city life, of escape, of cars, of freedom. Her heart, young and yearning, believed every word. Weeks passed. Then, Amarachi began to feel it, the dizziness, the missed moon cycle, the queasiness. She knew. The gods knew. But she said nothing. Until the village began to talk. And Pa Okonkwo's footsteps thundered one morning like a curse echoing through the earth. When Pa Okonkwo called Amarachi to the family compound, the air grew heavy, as if even the birds feared what was coming. Villagers gathered. Aunties covered their mouths. Children were told to look away. Amarachi stood in the center, her eyes on the red sand, her belly small but unmistakable. Who did this to you? Pa Okonkwo's voice cracked like dry wood. Chibondo, she whispered. Chibondo, he repeated, incredulous. That city rat. That devil's apprentice. The crowd murmured. Someone said Chibondo had already returned to Abuja. Another claimed he denied everything. Yet another said he'd married a different girl in Gwarimpa. Pa Okonkwo's eyes burned. You bring shame to my name. You, who I fed, clothed, educated. This is how you repay me. Tears streamed down Amarachi's cheeks. She knelt, clutching his feet. Papa, please, don't send me away. But tradition was a cage, and Pa Okonkwo was its gatekeeper. You are no longer my daughter. You're dead to me. He spat beside her and walked away. Silence fell. And then Amarachi rose, heartbroken, body trembling, but her spirit, though battered, was not yet buried. They say the worst pain isn't when the world turns its back on you. It's when the one who gave you life does. At sunrise, Amarachi wrapped her belongings, a wrapper, a flask, and a tiny bundle of clothes, into a faded nylon bag. Her mother, Mama Ngozi, wept silently and pressed 500 Nigerian nairas into her hand, hidden in a handkerchief. My daughter, survive. Don't forget who you are, she whispered, before vanishing into the back room as Pa Okonkwo glared. With swollen feet and a growing belly, Amarachi walked. The road to Owerri was cruel. She slept under abandoned kiosks, begged for water, and prayed under the stars. At night, she held her stomach and sang lullabies to the life inside her. No one cared. No one stopped. Until she fainted beside a roadside market. Vendors passed her like a rag doll, except for one. Auntie Ajioma, a stout woman who sold pepper and tomatoes, gently tapped her shoulder. "NWAM, are you alive?" Amarachi blinked through tears. "Please. I just need a place to rest." That was the first time someone chose to see her, not the shame. But rest was temporary. The storm was just beginning. Auntie Ajioma took Amarachi into her one-room wooden shack behind the market. The place smelled of spices and wood smoke. A charcoal pot always bubbled with stew, and pots clanged like music. Ajioma fed her, cleaned her up, and gave her an extra wrapper to sleep in. "You are carrying a child, and that child is innocent," she said. "Rest. Then you will work." Amarachi agreed. By the next day, she was helping to grind pepper, wash dishes, and fetch water from the well. Her back ached, her feet swelled, but her heart found small peace in Ajioma's kindness. But peace is never permanent. One evening, while boiling egusi soup, a fire sparked from a leaking kerosene stove. Flames roared. Amarachi screamed for help. Ajioma was out at the market. She tried to drag the heavy pot outside, but stumbled and hit her stomach on the wooden bench. The fire was doused by neighbors, but Amarachi lay on the floor, sobbing, afraid she had lost her baby. She bled. But not enough. She survived. And so did the child. But Amarachi knew now, life would not give her anything easily. Everything must be earned. In blood. In tears. The rain poured like a curse the night Amarachi went into labor. Thunder cracked the sky open, and the wind screamed like the ancestors were mourning. Auntie Ajioma wasn't home, she had gone to the village to bury her cousin. Amarachi was alone, clutching her belly as pain tore through her body like hot knives. She crawled to the floor, hands trembling, her wrapper soaked in rainwater and blood. The storm outside had drowned the sound of her screams. She beat down on a rag to keep from waking the neighbors. Hours passed. She thought she would die. But when the morning light cracked through the tin roof, she lay there, soaked in sweat, blood, and tears, holding a small, wriggling baby boy in her arms. His cry was weak but alive. "Kizaram," she whispered. "God has answered me." Her body was weak. Her heart was numb. But for the first time in months, Amarachi smiled. Not because life had become easier, but because life had continued. She was 18 years old, a mother, abandoned, and broke. But Kizaram would never feel what she felt. She swore it. Even if it meant bleeding for every coin. Weeks passed. Amarachi strapped baby Kizaram to her back and returned to the market beside Ajioma. She began hawking sachet water and ground nuts under the sun. At first, people mocked her, "Ashowo picking," they whispered. "She go carry bell again soon." But she kept walking. Kept selling. Kept pushing. From sunrise till the market bell rang, she roamed the streets. Her skin darkened. Her feet blistered. But each night, she returned to the shack with enough to buy a handful of gari and crayfish. Ajioma taught her how to cook, how to budget, how to hustle. "You think pain will kill you, but pain is only hunger for change," she once said, cutting okra with lightning-fast hands. Amarachi listened. She learned. She grew. One day, a woman in a fine car stopped her. "Who braided your hair like this?" "I did it myself," Amarachi said shyly, shifting baby Kizaram. The woman nodded. "You have gift. Come tomorrow." I need my daughter's hair done. That was the moment a door creaked open. Small, but real. And Amarachi, scarred but not broken, put her foot through it. The next morning, Amarachi borrowed Ijoma's tiny comb, her only mirror cracked on one side. She walked into Madam Stella's compound, a white duplex with lion statues and tiled floors. Her hands trembled. She was asked to braid the daughter's hair in knotless braids, the same style Amarachi used to wear in Umuko. She started slowly, then faster. Her hands remembered. They danced across the scalp like they'd never forgotten home. For hours passed, and when she finished, the girl squealed with delight. "This is better than that salon in town," Stella exclaimed, reaching into her purse. She handed Amarachi 15,000 Nigerian nairas. Amarachi blinked. It was more than she had ever held at once. From that day, word spread. Her style was neat. Her lines straight. Her fingers blessed. Madam Stella told her to open an Instagram page. Amarachi didn't know how. Stella's daughter helped her. Photos were posted. Soon, people began calling. Women. Girls. Even 2 celebrities. Each braid. Each twist. Each stitch fed her son and buried her shame. She wasn't just braiding hair anymore. She was weaving her name into gold. Amarachi's hair business began to boom. By the time Kizaram turned 2, she had rented a small shop painted bright pink, named Cheese Crown. She bought chairs, mirrors, and hair extensions in bulk. Her fingers could now earn 100,000 Nigerian nairas in a good week. She even hired 2 girls from the market to help. But as her money grew, so did something else, envy. A popular salon owner, Madam Peace, began to spread rumors. She uses juju. How can a village girl become rich so fast? Even Ijoma warned her, when your head rises above the crowd, people will try to chop it off. Then one day, 3 officers from the local government came. They accused her of operating an unregistered business and threatened to shut her down unless she paid 250,000 Nigerian nairas. It was a scam. But they wore real uniforms. Amarachi was shaking. She almost gave up. But she remembered her father's voice, "You're nothing without my name." And she decided, no, she would fight. She got legal help from a customer who was a lawyer. Documents were prepared. The officers disappeared like cockroaches in light. That day, Amarachi learned, riches attract storms. But she wasn't afraid of storms anymore. 3 years had passed since Amarachi had been cast out. Now 21, her skin glowed, her edges were always laid, and her boutique salon in Owerri was booked 3 weeks in advance. She had trained 10 girls, many of them single mothers, and helped them start small businesses of their own. Her son, Kizaram, spoke fluent English and Igbo, and attended a private school. He often told his mother, "One day, I'll build you a house with a fountain." She would laugh, tears often behind her eyes. One morning, after braiding a Nollywood actress's hair, Amarachi was invited to speak at a women's empowerment conference in Enugu. She wore an Ankara jumpsuit, with bold red lipstick, and stood before hundreds. "My name is Amarachi Okonko. My father disowned me when I was 17 for getting pregnant. He said I was finished. But I refused to believe that." The hall erupted in claps. That same night, her story was posted online. And it reached Umuko. It reached her father. It shattered everything he had told himself to sleep at night. And for the first time in 4 years, he wept. The news spread through Umuko faster than harmattan wind. Amarachi, the girl who had been cast out like a curse, was now a celebrated businesswoman in the city. She was on Facebook, Instagram, and even in the local newspaper. Some said it was a miracle. Others claimed it was pride. But poor Okonkwo, he said nothing. At the village square, old men teased him. "So, Okonkwo, that disgrace of yours is richer than all of us now." He would grumble, "Money does not wash shame." But at night, when the moonlight streamed through the bamboo windows, his mind replayed the day he spat on her feet. He remembered her voice breaking, "Papa, please," and the way she had clung to him. Mama Ngozi, his wife, no longer hid her anger. "You see? If you had listened to me, we would be living in comfort now. Your stubbornness is your poverty." Poor Okonkwo didn't reply. But in the stillness of midnight, he found himself whispering her name. And sometimes, he would dream that Amarachi was braiding his hair again, like when she was a child. One humid afternoon, as Amarachi was supervising her apprentices, a delivery man entered the salon with a gold-embossed envelope. "For Miss Amarachi Okonkwo," he said. The name froze her. She hadn't used Okonkwo publicly in years. She opened it slowly. Inside was a formal letter. "The Umuko Women's Association invites you as guest of honor for our annual festival." At the bottom was a handwritten note. "We would be proud to have our own daughter grace this event." For a moment, Amarachi felt the pull of home, the mango trees, the sound of goats bleating, the songs at dusk. But then the wound in her chest reminded her that was not her home anymore. She almost tore the letter. But Kizaram, now 4 years old, read over her shoulder. "Mommy, is this where Grandpa lives?" The word Grandpa hit her like a blow. That night, she lay awake, staring at the ceiling fan, wondering if the river that had rejected her was finally calling her back. A week later, Amarachi made her choice. She wore a white lace blouse, a gold wrapper, and styled her hair in an intricate Igbo coral updo that glittered in the sun. Her convoy was small, 2 cars. One carried gifts, rice bags, wrappers, cartons of noodles, and a brand new generator for the village clinic. Kizaram sat beside her in the back seat, eyes wide with excitement. "Will there be jollof rice, Mommy?" She smiled. "There will be more than rice, my son. There will be stories." As they approached Umuko, the air changed. She saw familiar streams, red-dirt roads, and children who looked just like she once did, barefoot, curious, free. But her chest tightened when she saw the family compound. The gate was the same, the mango tree still stood. And standing at the entrance, leaning on his walking stick, was Pa Okonkwo. His eyes were older. His beard was grayer. And for a second, the proud man looked like he might fall apart. The car door opened. Amarachi stepped out slowly, every click of her heels echoing in her father's chest. The villagers were already gathering, whispering, "She has returned." Poor Okonkwo's hands trembled as he gripped his stick. His lips parted, but no words came. Then his eyes shifted to the boy holding Amarachi's hand. "This is," he asked, voice hoarse. "Your grandson," she said simply. It was like the air had been sucked from the compound. The old man took a step forward, then stopped, his pride wrestling with his guilt. The silence stretched until Mama Ngozi emerged, running to embrace her daughter, weeping so loudly the goats bleated in alarm. The smell of home, the smoke, the palm oil, the earth, filled Amarachi's lungs. But she didn't cry. She had run out of tears for this place years ago. Still, part of her had waited for this moment. And part of her feared it. The next day, the annual Women's Festival turned into an unplanned coronation. Amarachi arrived in a flowing Ankara gown, her hair in cascading braids wrapped in golden thread. Everywhere she went, eyes followed, some in admiration, some in envy. She donated the generator to the clinic. She paid school fees for 10 children. She bought drinks for the elders. The drummers played louder each time she moved. But she also noticed her father standing at the edge of the crowd, watching but never stepping forward. His eyes glistened, his jaw tight. When the speeches began, the MC handed her the microphone. "Speak to your people, our daughter," they said. She took a deep breath. "I left this village in shame. I returned with honor, not because I am better than anyone here, but because I refuse to let pain define me. Every girl here must know, what you survive can make you gold, if you do not give up." The crowd roared. But in the shadows, poor Okonkwo's hands clenched. He knew those words were for him. That night, the festival drums faded into crickets, and the village lay under a blanket of moonlight. Poor Okonkwo sat alone in his hut, the shadows long and heavy. He had watched Amarachi move through the crowd like a queen. He had seen the boy, his grandson, laugh without fear. And he remembered. He remembered a 17-year-old girl, kneeling in the dust, begging for mercy. He remembered turning his back. And now, he felt the knife of regret twist deep. When Mama Ngozi entered with a plate of food, she said softly, "You could die tomorrow, Okonkwo. Will your grave be lighter because you refused to say sorry?" He didn't eat. Instead, he sat there until the cock crowed, gripping his walking stick like it was the only thing keeping him from drowning in his own shame. Amarachi was brushing Kizaram's hair when there was a knock at her guest house door. She opened it. Poor Okonkwo stood there, leaning on his stick, his frame smaller than she remembered. For a moment, he couldn't speak. Then his voice broke. "I have wronged you, my daughter." The words seemed to stop. He went down on his knees, slowly, painfully. The man who had never bowed to anyone was now bowing to her. "I sent you away when you needed me. I was blind. I was foolish. If the gods will forgive me, let my own blood forgive me too." Amarachi's lips trembled. She had dreamed of this moment, but she didn't know it would hurt this much. Behind her, Kizaram peeked out. "Mommy, is that Grandpa?" She bent down, lifting her father to his feet. "Yes, my son. This is your grandfather." In Igbo tradition, reconciliation is sealed with bread and salt. Mama Ngozi brought them out, her hands shaking as she placed the tray before her husband and daughter. Amarachi broke a piece of bread and dipped it in salt. She offered it to her father first. He took it with both hands. The crowd that had begun to gather outside the guest house erupted in ululation. Women clapped. Men nodded. The young girls whispered to each other, their eyes wide, "This is how forgiveness looks." Poor Okonkwo placed his palm on Kizaram's head. "You are the light your mother carried through darkness," he said. "May you never know the mistakes of your grandfather." Tears streamed down Amarachi's cheeks. For the first time in years, she felt the river inside her flow again. That evening, the family compound glowed with lanterns. The air was thick with the smell of jollof rice, goat pepper soup, and roasted plantain. Palm wine flowed like water. Elders came to bless Amarachi. Young girls surrounded her, asking how they could braid hair like she did. Even the boys, usually too proud, called her auntie with shy grins. At the center of it all sat poor Okonkwo, his hand resting on Amarachi's shoulder for the first time since she was a child. "She left here in disgrace," he told the crowd, "but she returns in honor. From today, no one will speak her name without respect." The cheer that followed seemed to shake the stars. Amarachi looked at her father, her heart lighter than it had been in years. She had come full circle. But this circle was gold. On her last morning in Umuko, Amarachi walked to the Oho River. She stood where she used to sit as a girl, humming to the water, telling it her dreams. Kizaram played by the bank, skipping stones. The river whispered back, not in words, but in the soft rush of water over stone. It told her what she already knew: pain had been her teacher, resilience her boat, and love her compass. Her father joined her quietly, leaning on his stick. They stood together for a long time, saying nothing. Sometimes silence says everything. When they turned to leave, Amarachi smiled. The girl who had been driven out had returned, not as a beggar, not as a ghost, but as a river that could not be stopped. My friend, Amarachi's story is not just hers, it belongs to anyone who has been cast aside, told they were finished, and yet rose again. If this story touched your heart, show it love, hit the like button right now. Subscribe so you never miss another tale of strength and redemption. And turn on the notification bell, because the next story might just be the one that changes your life. This is more than a story, it's a reminder: rivers always find their way home.